Hello and welcome to this edition of Global Business on CGTN. I'm Guanxing in Beijing. In the next hour, we'll delve into China's economic performance in the first half of 2024. China's economy continued to make steady improvement in the first half. Data from the country's National Bureau of Statistics showed on Monday. Gross domestic product grew 5% year-on-year in the first 6 months of the year, reaching nearly 62 trillion yuan, or about $8.65 trillion US dollars. Consumption, domestic investment, and foreign trade remain the three major engines driving China's economic growth. Boosted by supportive policies, retail sales of consumer goods rose 3.7% from a year ago. Services consumption stood out at a bright spot. Fixed asset investment went up by 3.9% on a yearly basis in the first 6 months. In particular, investment in high-tech industries showed robust growth, up more than 10%. In terms of foreign trade, the volume jumped 6.1% year-on-year during the same period. The trade structure continued to improve, with foreign trade by private enterprises up more than 11% year-on-year. And now to understand how China's first half economic data could affect the direction of the country's economic trajectory and policy in the second half of the year, let's bring in Chi Chan, Fellow of the Belt and Road Research Center at the Minzu University of China. Thank you for joining us. Professor Chu, so what is your interpretation of China's economic performance in the first half of the year?
Well, I think China in the first half of the year economically has done a really great job. 5% of the economic growth as we promised and forecasted in the beginning of the year. A lot of countries just have the question about how China can perform in this new year in the 2024. But I think with half of the year has already been passed, I think the answer is rather clear. 5% of the performance, and we've been seeing many of the bright spots in here. For example, we've been seeing that the high-tech manufacturing and high-tech services sectors has played a very important role in Chinese economy. We've been seeing those sectors both are growing at more than 10% of the speed, more than the traditional sectors and the other kind of the sectors. And also we've been seeing in China the export trade surplus has also been performing very well. We've been achieved more than 700 billion of Chinese yuan, or about 100 billion US dollars of the trade surplus, which has been outperforming most of the economies in the whole world, and also outperforming by 40% of the same period of last year. So I think this is also very good. And also from other factors, we've been seeing the CPI, which is the inflation, has been 0.2%, and also as the PMI also been improving. So I think Chinese economy is on a very stable rally period of time, and I've been thinking the second half of the year, the Chinese economy will continue with this dynamics.
So to achieve the around 5% growth target for the year, what impact is the first half results likely to have on China's economic policy making for the second half?
Well, we've been thinking that Chinese economy has already pointed a very clear, directions for the not only the second half of the year, but also in the future 2 or 3 years. We've been seeing bright spot, which is the high technology, the new quality development forces is definitely the period. Just definitely the directions we're going to follow. So I think in the going on the third plenary session, I think the Chinese policy was going to focus on this bright spot to strengthen our strengths. I think in China, we're going to have a new round of the fiscal and taxation policy reform, and also we're going to have more of the opening up policies, and also we're going to focusing on the more of the investment on the high technology, manufacturing, and service sectors, which are going to play the future leading role in Chinese, restructuring of the whole economy. But also we've been seeing that there are some other weak spots still in there. For example, the slowing down of the real estate market, which has already been stabilized, but we still need to, solidify the expectation in these sectors. And also in some other areas, for example, the social lending, as well as in the traditional consumption areas, we need more policy to support these areas to carry on with the rally forces and going on with the better track. So I think in this new policies, we're going to have more of the policies to provide the remedy and support in these areas.
And in terms of judging the outlook for China's economy in the second half of this year, what sectors are you closely monitoring?
Well, in the second half of the year, I think the number one set factor I'm going to monitoring is the building of the unified market of the whole China. China has issued lots of the factors policies towards the opening up to the international market. We have already seen very good results. For example, 144-hour visa-free entry, and as well as the very clear black and white list towards the entry into the Chinese market. And we're welcoming international investment. This has already been a done deal, and it showed very good result. But in the future, I think to build a unified domestic market has become a more important factor to build a better domestic circulation for Chinese economy. And I think the second one we'll be looking into is what kind of the new policies can put forward towards new productive forces, especially for the SMEs, because you have to understand for the tech-savvy industries, for the new tech, high-tech industries, most of the companies starting as the SMEs, very small companies, the garage shops, but the later will evolve into the big giants. For example, in the AI sector, in the auto driving sector, the EV sectors, we'll be seeing many of these cases. And later they can grow into the little champion or the little giants. And thirdly is what we're looking into is how can we support the domestic consumption market? And we've been looking into the new round of fiscal and taxation policy reform, and that's going to provide us more of the guidance in this area.
Well, thank you very much for sharing with us. Professor Chu Jiang, Fellow of the Belt and Road Research Center at the Minzu University of China. And China's industrial production continued to gain momentum in the first half of the year, with the equipment manufacturing and high-tech manufacturing sectors posting even faster expansion. China's value-added industrial output went up 6% year-on-year in the first half of this year, with manufacturing sector output showing the fastest growth, climbing 6.5%. Equipment manufacturing sector output expanded 7.8%, outpacing the overall industrial output growth by 1.8 percentage points. And the high-tech manufacturing sector grew 8.7%, outpacing overall output growth by 2.7 percentage points. Specifically, output of 3D printing equipment jumped 51%, new energy vehicles 34%, and integrated circuits 28%. In China, public institutions have ownership rights of the technologies and scientific achievements developed by their employees. And these accomplishments were automatically classified as state assets and could not be commercialized or traded by the scientists themselves. However, there has been a recent shift in this approach, with some local governments, including Shanghai, introducing reforms to encourage innovation.
A group of young scientists in Shanghai, led by Ma Lin, is currently working on a technology that has the potential to revolutionize the mass production of photonic chiplets and enhance the computing power of artificial intelligence chips. This research is being supported by a 20 million yuan funding through venture capital investment, equivalent to approximately $2.8 million. In the past, obtaining such a significant amount of funding through venture capital was extremely challenging for individuals like Ma, who work for public universities. This difficulty stemmed from investors' concerns about the lack of ownership rights for scientists and the potential returns on their inventions.
It's similar to not having 100% ownership of the house you bought and currently live in. This means you can't freely sell, trade, or make decisions about the property as you wish.
In August 2023, the Shanghai municipality introduced a new guideline that grants researchers like Ma full ownership rights and long-term usage rights over their scientific achievements.
The implementation of this new measure holds great potential for our scientists to take the initiative and start their own businesses. This has a twofold benefit. It allows the capital market to thrive by capitalizing on technological breakthroughs, while also driving growth in the industrial sector. Encouraging scientists to become entrepreneurs is a crucial step in fostering new, high-quality productive forces.
The tech ownership reform has not only empowered scientists, but also revitalized a significant portion of state assets, transforming their value from theoretical to tangible in the market. In Shanghai, there are currently 94 tech companies that have been founded by employees of public institutions. These companies have successfully attracted 6 billion yuan of private investment to date. When considering their collective market capitalization, it is estimated to be around 37 billion yuan. The new policy also extends to doctors working in public hospitals, allowing them to benefit from the ownership reform. This is significant because it enables collaborations between doctors and lab engineers at medical equipment manufacturers, facilitating the transformation of their inventions into market-ready products at an accelerated pace.
The
new policies implemented in Shanghai have effectively translated innovation into practical applications, fostering a stronger connection between the upstream and downstream segments of the medical equipment supply chain.
In 2023, public universities, research institutions, and hospitals in Shanghai made significant strides in sci-tech commercialization, signing contracts worth an estimated 18.2 billion yuan. This marked a 27% increase compared to the previous year, highlighting the region's commitment to driving innovation and translating scientific achievements into tangible economic outcomes. Shanghai is not the only region embracing these ownership reforms. Other key areas in China, including Beijing, Guangdong, Anhui, Fujian, Sichuan, and Tianjin, are also actively adjusting their policies regarding the ownership and right of use of scientific achievements. By doing so, these regions are fostering the growth of their own high-quality productive forces and creating an environment conducive to innovation and entrepreneurship.
And now for more analysis of China's tech investment, let's bring in Jeremy Zook, lead sovereign analyst for China at Fitch Ratings. So Jeremy, what's your take on China's economic performance in the first half, and what was the role of China's high-tech sector?
Yeah, that's right. China's GDP expanded by 5%, in line with the government's target. We still see that export strength will continue in the second half of the year. And we also expect that fiscal support will come in a little more forcefully during the second half of 2024, helping to keep growth momentum somewhat resilient. The government has been putting in place the sort of policy prescription to move away from property sector driven growth towards what they call these new productive forces and this new manufacturing technology base. And certainly we've seen in China quite a bit of success in several industries under this sort of new high-tech industries, including EVs as well as renewable energy. So China has already seen some significant progress and success in these areas. And we are seeing, of course, again, going back to strong external demand, these sectors have been performing quite well for China. I guess the key question will be, what type of a growth rate can these new productive forces provide for China over the longer run? We do think that, during this transition period, the government will sort of be seeking to play a bit of a stabilizing role in providing some fiscal support during this transition period to help the economy sort of balance and see its way through some of the near-term challenges associated with moving away from the property sector.
So Jeremy, in your opinion, how can the Chinese government ensure a smooth transition as the economy shifts to new growth drivers?
Yeah, one thing that we think will take place over the next several years is that fiscal policy will continue to play an important role in this economic transition period. Our expectation is that fiscal consolidation on the part of the government will be relatively gradual, and a key factor behind that is just ensuring this transition away from the property sector towards these new industrial technologies occurs relatively smoothly. And so we think there will continue to be this sustained role, especially more so now for the central government in providing some of this fiscal support. I guess a key consideration will be that a lot of this fiscal support we think will remain focused on the supply side of the economy, while the demand side of the economy we don't expect there to be as significant of a push on the fiscal side. Over the medium term, there could be some challenges if domestic consumption doesn't pick up more considerably, while there is a big push to increase the supply side of the economy.
Jeremy Zook, lead sovereign analyst for China at Fitch Ratings for us. Thank you for sharing with us. Well, China's private sector has been proactive in pushing forward technological innovation. Jinjiang City in Fujian province is renowned for its successful economic model driven by a vibrant private sector. Our reporter Zhu finds out how intelligent production is accelerating the city's private economic growth even further.
This is a newly made suit I just ordered from 7 brand. Well, how long does it take to make such a suit? Several weeks or several days. Now with the intelligent production system, it can be produced every 40 seconds.
We follow the real-time video transmitted via 5G to learn how to sew. Previously, we could only make 5 pieces of clothing in an hour, and learning new processes took about 6 months. Now we can learn these skills very quickly, and can make nearly 20 pieces in an hour.
This is the first factory in the country to apply China Mobile's 5G private network to garment production. The entire process, from cutting and sewing to packaging, is digitalized. Our efficiency has increased by nearly 20%.
7 brand is also the first company in China to use automated guided robots in the garment industry.
This is our robot transporting raw materials to the sewing workshop. The elevator system can also work with it. It will send materials to our designated workshop and can operate 24 hours a day.
Growing from a family workshop in 1979, 7 Brand's brand value has surged over 50-fold, and it has become one of China's 500 most valuable brands. The company's innovative intelligent transformation reflects the effectiveness of the Jinjiang experience model. In the 1970s, Jinjiang's per capita GDP was only about $20, much lower than the national average. But now this county-level city has nurtured over 96,000 of private enterprises, including those like 7 Brand. The private sector accounts for over 97% of all its companies, with 51 of them listed.
We have been continuously innovating. In 1998, we invested over $7 million to establish a suit factory. Before then, all suits in China were imported. In recent years, we were among the pioneers in the garment industry to fully digitalize our operations.
Apart from textiles, many in Jinjiang also started their businesses in another light industry that requires a relatively low entry barrier: shoes. We are now here in Chendai Town, Jinjiang City. During the early 1980s, during the early days of China's reform and opening up, almost everyone in this small town, roughly the size of around 5 football fields, was starting their own shoe business.
我们从小对鞋子就非常的喜欢，家里面在我7、8岁的。
When I was 7 or 8 years old, I started making shoes. At that time, almost every household in Chendai was a family workshop making shoes.
You know, the Xinjiang is the shoes capital city. So these kind of products are very popular in our market, and 90% of the shoes materials are imported to Bangladesh from China.
Today, Jinjiang produces 1.6 billion pairs of sports shoes annually, accounting for 40% of China's total output. It has given rise to well-known sports brands like Enta, 361 Degrees, and X-Step. When you think of shoe making, what image comes to your mind? Like this? But now, intelligent production has made the process much more efficient.
In 11 to 15 seconds, we can glue a pair of shoes. 2 machines can operate together, and the same production line can produce multiple styles of shoes. Gluing used to release some volatile substances that were harmful to the human body, but now it's completely pollution-free.
Next, Bojiang plans to launch the first fully self-designed automatic shoe roughening machine in China.
Previously, this technology could only be imported from abroad. The process of roughing shoes by hand was prone to injuries. Now these machines can replace human labors and work with an accuracy of up to 0.1 millimeters.
Developing these technologies costs a lot of time and funding. But Wu Yibin says the Jinjiang experience inspires him to be a pioneer in the industry.
We want to lead the entire industry in digital transformation. helping the whole shoe industry to upgrade, not just to change our own factory.
Pioneering and innovation, the core elements of the Xinjiang experience I've observed during my report, are propelling the city towards a prosperous new stage. In recent years, Xinjiang has accelerated the intelligent transformation of its traditional industries. Official data shows more than 90% of companies in Xinjiang are connected to the industrial internet. Last year, China's State Council took the Xinjiang experience as a guide to promote the development of the country's private economy. Zhuzhu, CGTN, Xinjiang in Fujian Province.
In the first half of this year, the quality and scale of China's foreign trade have grown steadily. From January to June, China's exports totaled over 12 trillion yuan, up 6.9% year-on-year. Imports stood at 9 trillion yuan, an increase of 5.2% year-on-year. The Association of Southeast Asian Nations remained China's largest trading partner, with bilateral trade climbing 10.5% year-on-year to 3.36 trillion yuan, accounting for nearly 16% of the country's total trade value. The European Union was the second largest trading partner, and the U.S. were the third. China's trade with countries participating in the Belt and Road Initiative amounted to over 10 trillion yuan in the first 6 months, witnessing a year-on-year increase of 7.2%. In our joint production with Pakistan Economic Net, Dr. Hansen Dodd-Butt, an international projects management specialist, shared his insights on how the Belt and Road Initiative has helped to drive economic growth and regional connectivity.
China has been for almost 3 decades the factory of the world. They produce items, services, goods which are essential for running the global economy. It's not just China exporting to the rest of the world, it's like bilateral trade. Both import and export from and to China are growing. And also I think this is one reason that the Belt and Road Forum is so significant, but it provides you a platform through which not just trade and economies grow, but also by people-to-people interaction, ways and means are identified through which trade can be expanded. Forums like Import-Export Expo, which happened in China last year, where a large number of participants globally participated. I think these platforms and more, I think, are required through which this trade can be expanded. I think trade is one mean through which global order can be adjusted, more peace can be brought in, and also economies can be improved through which poverty and unemployment can be addressed. So these are some significant measures, and we should thank China for supporting not just the regional economy but global economy, because a significant part of the global economy is represented through the Belt and Road Initiative.
And now for more on China's foreign trade, we're joined by Benedict Soboka, CEO of Eurasian Resources Group and co-chair of the Global Battery Alliance. Always great to have you with us, Mr. Soboka. So China's exports performed strongly in the first half despite a complex global environment. What factors are contributing to the resilience of China's export sector?
Well, China has a very, very well-established manufacturing base and a very highly efficient supply chain. And you see that not just in the numbers, but also in the quality of the products, right? In June was a record high in terms of export. It was also a record high in terms of trade surplus with most of its major trading partners. Roughly a third of the surplus in trade actually comes from trade between the US and China. So that's going to be also a very complicated discussion going forward, looking at the presidential election. But the country, China, has invested very heavily in infrastructure and technology. Some of the competitive products that have been growing particularly fast are the electric vehicle supply chain. where China posted almost a 30% growth year on year in exports, but also in semiconductors, which is the result of active investing in research and development in the semiconductor industries. And also China has been very actively diversifying its export markets, reducing the reliance on the few historic trading partners, the US and Europe, and expanding trade with countries in Asia, Africa, and Latin America. And at the same time, the imports reduced, and that's, for example, the result of lower imports of crude oil, which is directly the result of the electrification of the Chinese transportation fleet. The imports of crude dropped by about 11% in June, which tells you the impact that electrification in China actually has on crude import. China is the largest importer of crude oil, but it is reducing pretty significantly from a peak in 2023, and we're going to expect to see more of this as China employs more electrification in its transportation and economic business as it transitions to a more greener industry.
We'll talk about green transformation later more. And Mr. Soboka, talking about imports, China is still a major importer of global resources. China's iron ore imports increased 6.2% in the first half after reaching a record high last year. What is driving China's demand for global commodities?
Well, iron ore is absolutely crucial for various industries, including the automotive industry, machinery, appliances, infrastructure, and of course the property sector. Now, the property sector has clearly been softer over the last few years, but China is still experiencing pretty rapid urbanization. Most people outside of China will not know this, but China is still a very much middle-income country, particularly as you go further west. So there's a continuous need for infrastructure development. And iron ore is the main raw material used in steel production, which is essential for all infrastructure projects. So to meet its growing demand for iron ore, China heavily relies on imports, particularly from countries like Australia, Brazil, and South Africa, because Chinese domestic iron ore reserves are limited and they're typically of low quality. Low quality meaning not just less efficient, but also low quality means more output of emissions, because lower quality iron ore creates more CO2 emissions in the production process. So China today is the world's largest steel producer. It is also the world's largest steel exporter. So actually, some of the numbers we talked about earlier in terms of trade actually come from the export of refined products, including steel. China is the largest importer of all raw materials in the world, effectively. But you see a change in the quality of that import. You see more higher-end products like cobalt, like chromium, that are used for higher-end applications such as electric vehicles. And less dependence on imports of lower quality products. So that's a direct effect of the Chinese government's drive towards a higher quality growth made in China 2025 and various other policies and measures to support and promote higher quality growth and also higher quality exports.
Indeed, where China is a major importer of global commodities, so many foreign companies are closely monitoring Chinese economy to get a gauge about China's demand going forward. What is the URG's outlook for China's mineral imports in the coming years?
Well, again, China is the world's largest consumer of many mineral resources, including for most of our products, whether that's iron ore, copper, coal, aluminum, cobalt, nickel, and so on. And demand for these resources is driven by the industrialization, it's driven by urbanization, infrastructure development, and also now increasingly, as you see in the trade numbers, increasingly by high quality and higher tech export products from the semiconductor industry, from the automotive industry, and so on. And I think the risk here is really that these type of dependencies, they need free trade, right? They need free trade and free flow of raw materials. As a company like ERG, we need free trade into China. We need free trade into other markets. And changes in these trade policies or geopolitical tensions, they can really affect China's access to certain mineral resources and alter import patterns. So it's very important that China remains open, but also that the other countries and other blocs in the world remain open, because these supply chains, as they build up, and they need to build up, particularly as we talk about the energy transition, they require free flow of goods, services, and technology around the world to achieve the targets that we've set as part of the Paris agreements.
Well, thank you very much for sharing with us. Benedict Soboka, CEO of Eurasian Resources Group and co-chair of the Global Battery Alliance. And please stay with us for more discussions later in the program.
Thank you.
China is leading global efforts in shifting to cleaner energy sources thanks to numerous technological breakthroughs in its photovoltaic power industries. And earlier, my colleague Michael Wang explored China's Longyi Jiaxing Lighthouse Factory, which is the world's first solar module manufacturing base, joining the World Economic Forum's Global Lighthouse Network.
We're here at Longyi Green Energy's Jiaxing production base, home to the world's first and only lighthouse factory in the photovoltaic industry. Now, as you can see, the roof of the factory is covered with solar panels. And as we're told, it has enough capacity to generate a projected 385 gigawatt of power over a span of 25 years. It's all part of the solar power for solar production mantra of Longyi. Hi, Meng. Hi there. Good to see you.
Hey, Michael. Great to see you. Welcome.
Thank you so much for welcoming us here.
Thank you.
Let's have a look around, shall we?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, let's go.
Futuristic.
Yeah.
Welcoming.
Talk to us about the development of the solar industry here in China. Where has it gone from? Right? And how is solar leading the energy transition here in this country?
Well, the solar industry was not there 20 years ago. It's new. And our company is 24 years old.
Yeah.
Total annual demand for new installation for the world is about 500 gigawatts. For China, it's about 300 gigawatts. So in 1 year, I think China is going to install the new capacity that is almost the same size as historically the cumulative installed base.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've been doubling the solar installed capacity in the past 5 years.
Yeah. What I'm watching isn't just PV panel production. It's more like printing money. And this is real cash. Let me explain why. From here on out, these solar panels will continuously generate energy and economic returns for the next 25 to 30 years. Now, on average, it takes just 16 to 18 seconds to produce one of these solar panels at the Lighthouse factory. Each one of these solar panels is 2.58 square meters large and can generate over half a kilowatt of power per hour. What's special about Longyi's Lighthouse factory?
And the motivation for us to do this, part of it is we believe that automation, big data, digital, the cross-section of a few technology trends are going to fundamentally change how we manufacture and how we produce. One is the customer needs are becoming more differentiated. And the only way to achieve that is not by asking your workers to work harder, right? It's actually using technology and digital to actually make some fundamental change to how we manufacture.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's one of the motivation. The other motivation behind it is we realize that as we grow, there will be need for us to build more factories.
Yeah.
And we have this notion of factory as a product. For example, if we set up a factory with our partner in the US, it's not possible for us to send 500 people to the US to do it, right? So you have to have a well-packaged system that define your factory. And we can provide factory as a product to our partners everywhere around the world. That the operational results improved dramatically. Like energy consumption is down 20%, and our throughput is increased 80%.
Wow.
And by the way, the labor cost doesn't necessarily go down because you actually ask people to do more skillful jobs, and you pay them more. So the purpose is not to get rid of human in the manufacturing process. The purpose is actually to make the manufacturing process more intelligent.
China has poured over $50 billion in new PV supply capacity, 10 times more than Europe. This investment has led to the creation of over 300,000 manufacturing jobs across the solar PV value chain since 2011. Meanwhile, China's PV industry is undergoing a phase of consolidation. Those billion-dollar giants, along with many ambitious medium-sized players, are entering a period of market adjustment. Longyi's Hai Meng expects a new balance to be restored by the second half of this year.
So I think from the demand side, you need to have some fundamental support for the demand It is a growing industry for sure, but we also realize that the capacity for the grid to take on more solar power is also strained. Maybe there should be more investment to the grid to absorb more renewable. Maybe there should be more investment to energy storage.
Looking ahead, the bottleneck for the PV industry isn't the cost anymore, says Haimeng. The real challenge now is how much new energy we can connect to the grid, how much we can consume, and how we can apply it more broadly.
China continues to make remarkable strides in developing its green economy and transforming its environmental landscape. Since the 18th CPC National Congress, China has firmly upheld the belief that lucid waters and lush mountains are invaluable assets. And now my colleague Juju joins me in the studio. Hi, Juju, take it away.
Thank you, Guanxing. Over the past decade, China has made great progress in green development. In clean energy, China has built the largest and most competitive clean energy industry in the world. For the past 9 years, China has been the top producer and seller of electric vehicles globally. By 2023, coal consumption in China dropped by 13.2% compared to 2012, and energy use per unit of GDP decreased by 26.8%. For improving air quality, last year, the average concentration of fine particulate matter, or PM2.5, in over 330 cities across China was 30 micrograms per cubic meter. That is nearly 3 micrograms lower than the annual target. And for enhanced surface water quality from January to May this year, 95% of the monitored sections of the Yangtze River had excellent water quality, a 1% improvement compared to last year. The water quality of the Yellow River basin also improved, with 3.5% more sections rated as excellent in 2023 than in the previous year. For international governance participation, China has proposed building a shared community for all life. It played a key role in the Paris Agreement, setting its carbon peak and carbon neutrality goals. As the host, China held the 15th Conference of the Parties to the Convention on Biological Diversity, or COP15, and achieved the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. China also established the Belt and Road Initiative International Green Development Coalition, partnering with 31 countries. Back to you, Guanxing.
Well, thank you, Juju, for all the details. And now for more insights on the global efforts towards a zero carbon economy, I want to bring back Benedict Sobotka, CEO of Eurasian Resources Group and co-chair of the Global Battery Alliance. Thank you for staying with us. So, Mr. Sobotka, as the co-chair of the Global Battery Alliance, could you help us understand how important is global cooperation in a fight against the climate change?
Well, climate change is a global challenge that requires collective action. The impacts of climate change, such as rising temperatures, extreme weather events, and sea level rise, they do not respect national borders. So it's a global challenge, and we have to address it as such. That's why we founded the Global Battery Alliance about 7 years ago. We now have 150 members. It's a global multi-stakeholder organization, including some of the leading Chinese companies that are members, such as CATL, Ningde, and others. We are working to build out a supply chain that is sustainable, a supply chain that helps deliver the Paris goals. And that's where international frameworks and international cooperation is so important. We cannot address this challenge as individual countries, and we need global cooperation. But of course, China plays an incredibly important role, as the previous speaker said, because China plays such an outsized role in the global technology development and the global capacity development and in the global deployment of renewable energy and clean tech. So we have to work together, and China has to be an absolute centerpiece of that effort.
And technology also plays a key role in this transition. How can we further encourage innovation to drive solutions vital to global carbon emission reduction?
Yeah, that's an important point, because technology has made the renewable energy more accessible and also more affordable. The drop in prices for renewable energy have been around 90%, 95%. As particularly China has scaled up its industry, the electric vehicles are incredibly more competitive than internal combustion engines. So technological innovation has really made the green energy transition a possibility. And I think we will see more innovation. And again, that innovation has to be global. It has to be available for all consumers around the world and not be restricted to certain economic blocks. And here's China again as probably one of the technology leader on batteries, on energy storage, on renewable energy generation, and also on measurement system, on storage, battery storage and batteries charging to grid. I think that's going to be very important and has to be rolled out globally. And Chinese companies will have to internationalize their technology and make it more available for consumers around the world. And that's where China will play an incredibly important role, and why China needs such an open market, and consumers around the world need China to be accessing those global markets, because only then will we be able to achieve the Paris energy transition goals.
And China is also pursuing green development of its economy. How do you see China's role in the global green transition as its economy shifts towards more environmental friendly?
Well, China has, and most people outside of China will not know this, has deployed more solar panels in China last year than the United States has deployed in its entire history, and that's just in 1 year. There's been more renewable energy capacity built in China than the entire energy generation capacity of the African continent in 1 year. So the energy transition basically is all about China, and there will not be an energy transition without China. We cannot emphasize this point more. China is the technological leader, is the industrial capacity leader, is the deployment leader in energy transition technologies. And the world can benefit from that if it allows access. Now, of course, there's geopolitical tension, and that's probably not going to get, as people would say, it will get worse before it gets better. But the economic benefits and the benefits for consumers are very obvious. If there wasn't solar panels from China at such competitive costs, they would not be deployable around the world, and that's irrespective whether that's in China, Germany, or the United States. Because of its competitiveness, these products have made the energy transition brought it into reach, and that's good for the world, and that's good for the carbon reduction targets that we've set ourselves as a world community.
Well, thank you very much for your insights, Benedict Soboka, CEO of Eurasian Resources Group and co-chair of the Global Battery Alliance.
Interesting, we see that China, in terms of talent, there's more and more. So that's the reason why we bring more R&D center here as well in China. First of all, to understand better the market, but also to get access to a very strong and talented people pool, which can keep developing our Swiss company and Swiss technology as well, with the specificity of the market or new technology that we can find here in this market.
Really, the majority, 91% of German companies are very committed to the Chinese market. Around 50% will also keep investing into the Chinese market. We've seen a record high of German investment last year in 2023. And we also believe investment will be going on.
China has a very large market scale, right? And also the continuous consumption upgrades and the very robust economic development, the innovation capability. So all of this gives a very full confidence to a wider society, including the foreign enterprises like us.
Those areas that good investment opportunities, especially around e-commerce, around the consumer, around healthcare and clean technology. So we think the entry point right now is very strong for the China markets, and we see the markets really starting to come back, and I think will outperform other parts of the world going forward.
China's National Immigration Administration says the country's 144-hour visa-free transit policy has been expanded to 3 more ports of entry. The policy now covers a total of 37 ports of entry. The 3 new locations are Zhengzhou Xinzheng International Airport in Henan Province, Lijiang Sanyi International Airport in Yunnan Province, and the Mohan Railway Port in Yunnan. Since late 2023, China has been accelerating the pace of opening up its borders, welcoming more foreign visitors to revive the tourism sector and boost the people-to-people exchanges. My colleague Juju is here to explain the process to us.
Thank you, Guanxin. So last November, China started trialing visa-free entry for travelers with ordinary passports from countries including France, Germany, and Italy. These citizens can enter China without a visa and stay for up to 15 days for business, tourism, family visits, or transit. This year, border openness have accelerated. In January, China signed mutual visa exemption agreements with Singapore and Thailand, allowing citizens from both sides to enter and stay for up to 30 days without a visa. In March, the trial was extended to 6 more European countries, including Switzerland, Ireland, and Hungary, among others. In May, the trial policy was extended to the end of 2025. In June, 3 more countries were added to the trial list: Australia, New Zealand, and Poland. And last November, China also expanded its visa-free transit policy for 54 countries. Citizens from these countries can transit in China without a visa for up to 144 hours on their way to a third country. During this visa-free stay, they can engage in activities like travel and business. With the growing number of visa-free countries, the number of tourists entering China has surged. According to the National Immigration Administration, China recorded over 14.6 million inbound trips made by foreigners in the first half of this year, up over 150% year-on-year. Out of these, the number of visa-free entries made by foreigners exceeded 8.5 million, accounting for 52% of the inbound trips and a year-on-year surge of over 190%. 686,000 port visas have been issued, up over 260% year-on-year, and residence permits for foreigners in China reached 388,000, a 2.4% increase year-on-year. And to better meet the diverse payment needs of foreigners in China, the People's Bank of China, the Ministry of Commerce, and the State Administration of Foreign Exchange also issued a notice in April to optimize payment services for them. Electronic wallets for foreigners and POS machines that accept foreign credit cards have already been introduced. Back to you, Guanxin.
Well, thank you very much for all the details. As one of the first stops for international visitors to China, Shanghai is now leading the charge in providing them with convenient payment services. And that includes cash withdrawals, money changing, and getting visitors into the digital payment ecosystem. And now that all can happen as soon as people land at the airport, as Lei Shuren reports.
At Shanghai's Pudong International Airport, a brand new round-the-clock one-stop service station catering to the international travelers has recently opened. Making free phone calls, buying SIM card packages, arranging transport and tourism information, visitors can get nearly all the assistance they need. And of course, they can exchange money here. A new currency exchange machine is available at the service station, displaying current exchange rates and not imposing additional fees. And what excited many visitors is that the machine offers small bill exchange.
We need to change 300 euros for yuan. It's very easy. Yeah. With passport, it's very easy.
That is to make it easier for them to make small payments, like buying a SIM card and taking a taxi.
So far, there are 88 such user-friendly exchange machines in the city, and the number of ATMs accepting foreign bank cards in the city exceeds 9,000. Most of them also allow withdrawing small amounts of cash.
We have set up over 450 small denomination cash exchange channels in the city to facilitate easy access to change notes.
The government is also encouraging merchants to accept foreign bank cards with subsidies for those who install foreign bank point-of-sale machines. Official data from the central bank showed that as of the end of June, Shanghai had over 70,000 foreign card POS terminals throughout the city, covering more than 50,000 merchants. This has also excited many visitors, with over 1.9 million foreign card transactions made in the city during the first half of the year, totaling 3.5 billion yuan.
All these things that I've bought here,
okay.
You see, for my mom, and I did use my credit card. Yes, everything works well. You just have to have money in your bank account, that's all.
And to encourage online payments, the central bank is working with Alipay to allow visitors to set up a local e-wallet, which will allow mobile payments.
I already downloaded the app for online payments. I think it's quite easy.
I'm gonna pay everything with Alipay. She told me it's easy.
Official data showed that Shanghai received more than 2 million foreign tourists in the first half of this year, up nearly 180% year-on-year, and is expected to receive about 5 million inbound tourists for the whole year. And more efforts to make payments easier are likely to be seen to benefit more foreign visitors. Lei Shuren, ICS for CGTN, Shanghai.
Well, later we'll talk to Joe Nye, chairman of McKinsey China, to get his perspective on China's high-quality opening up. Take a look.
I think China is definitely the most competitive
environment anywhere on globally. Right now, I think we're squarely in the medium growth lane, and that's what we all have to get used to. When I talk to CEOs all around, they all say that, look, this environment, we're getting used to it, and we're doing our budgets in the right way. So the first one is we're getting used to the environment. That's one. Second, I think that basically I've seen more Chinese companies who want to go overseas than I've ever witnessed before. And I think that it's really a phenomenon of the times, right? I think the Chinese companies, for the longest time, we were the factory of the world. We manufactured here and we exported to the rest of the world. And I think there's a big difference between factory of the world and a multinational company. And I think the Chinese companies right now, they want to go abroad, they want to become multinational companies. I think that's a big change in there.
What else are business leaders telling you in terms of top of mind for multinational companies, I guess, operating here in the China market?
I think that they have enjoyed 20 years of unprecedented growth and prosperity. So I do think the multinationals, for a lot of them, they are recalibrating China. They're thinking about, like, what is China going to mean for us as a global company in the next 10 years? And am I going to invest more money in China? How am I going to transform my business? The conclusion is that we all have to get better, right, in operating our business in China. Because if we don't do that, we will slowly become irrelevant, right, in the market. And I think that that includes the speed, the localization, right, the talent pool, right, the digital transformation, all of the above.
You've said that China is the most competitive environment in the world. So as a multinational, how do you succeed here?
And I think for multinationals, this is the market where they face the fiercest local competition, they face the fiercest price competition, right? And they face the most rapid innovation cycle that they can see anywhere else, right? Product innovation in China, is 3 times faster than anywhere they've seen usually in the home markets. So what do they need to do? Just like any other Chinese company, okay? You have to get faster, better, cheaper, and closer to the market, right? I mean, there's only one formula, and that formula is not any different between a multinational company or a local company. And I think that they all face the same context. So, I do think that if they can do it well, they can succeed anywhere.
What do you think are some of the biggest misconceptions about the Chinese economy that a foreign investor or a foreign business might have?
I think the misconception could be that in the past, China had 1.4 billion people, so therefore, we can get a small percentage of that market and it'll be big enough for us, yeah? I think that has been something where, we all believe in it and, it was kind of true in the past, 20 years, yeah? I think going forward, what we need to figure out is what's the pockets of customers, right, that you need to go for, right? I call it the granularity of growth, right? So, you got to pick your battles, right? It's no longer a small percentage of 1.4 billion, right? It's going to be, what are the geographies, cities, customer segments, behavioral segments, what are the channels, right? I think that they got to be a lot more purposeful, right, around what are you picking, how is your product going to be good for those people, where's your value for money, and how do you do it? And I think that that is a big change because that is a whole other degree of, I would say, operational excellence.
How do you become more precise? AI, technology.
I think you got to use technology, use data. You got to be a lot more. I think your talent, right, got to be a lot more customized. So I think that it's going to be very, very precise. Why? Because the market sophistication is now becoming a lot more than what it was before. Yeah. And I think we just got to get with the times.
And that's all for this edition of Global Business. Before we go, we'll leave you with some Business Insider's key insights on China's economic prospects. Thanks for being with us. Bye for now.
If you look at China's contribution, right, or rather the building, the contribution of the building industry to carbon emissions in China is much higher than global average. It's about 50%, right? And this speaks to the fact that China is urbanizing, right? And it's also driving urbanization in many parts of emerging economies.
In fact, I feel very excited about those opportunities. If you think about IPOs, for example, the country is turning out a lot of really exciting investment opportunities. We have many unicorns coming out from the highest technology sectors. Innovation is at a high point.
In recent years, China has made a lot of efforts to stabilize and ensure the supply chain and industrial chain, along with increasing investment. Scientific and technological innovation has gradually become the leading force of its modern industrial system. Last year, China's exports maintained strong growth even as global trade declined. Electric manned vehicles, lithium-ion batteries, and solar cells have gradually become the main driving force for China's exports instead of clothing, furniture, and home appliances.
Growth was driven more strongly by exports compared to what we expected late last year or in January. Global trade growth is improving this year after a pretty dismal year last year for global trade. So that means that the demand for China's exports is expected to be a bit stronger this year. The upgrade also for the forecast reflects recent policy announcements. The government announced, for example, a trade-in program for newer, more efficient products.